What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a horror movie. And I picked this movie in particular because Valentine's Day is coming up, and this film is often considered a slasher classic that I personally have never seen before. Funny enough, the remake of this movie that came out, I think it was in like the mid to late 2000s, sometime in like 2007 to 2009, in that era. I worked at a movie theater and I watched the remake on opening night, particularly because Jensen Ackles was in it. And I was a huge fan of Supernatural at the time period, which is why I watched it. I remember literally nothing about that movie other than the reveal of the film for some weird reason. And so this, I knew very little about it other than the look of the slasher. I didn't really know much about the movie at all, but it's currently streaming on Shudder, so I thought I would check it out. And the movie I'm going to be talking about with you today is My Bloody Valentine. My Bloody Valentine is directed by George Mihalka. 20 years after a Valentine's Day tragedy claimed the lives of 5 minors, Harry Warden returns for a vengeful massacre among teen sweethearts gearing up for another party. So, I was really excited to watch this movie. I'm a huge fan of horror movies and slashers in general, and I know this one is talked about quite a bit in the horror community, and I thought this movie was incredibly entertaining. It's not in the top tier slashers for me personally, but it is definitely a movie that I would revisit. And I'll say this before, I've heard that there's like an uncut version that's much gorier and that there's like more attention to the kills. I don't think that's the version that Shudder has up right now. I think it's just the regular original theatrical version. So I don't necessarily know how much that would change my opinion, but regardless, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the movie today. So in this movie, we are dropped into Valentine Bluffs, which is a small Canadian mining town, and we're getting close to Valentine's Day. And in this very small community, they're going to host this Valentine's Day dance party that they haven't had in several years. And the reason for that is because, as the plot description states, there was a miner who was left in the shaft and ended up, I think, having to resort to cannibalism in order to survive. He ends up getting out of the mine, and after he managed to escape, he hunted down a bunch of his supervisors that left him down there to die and killed him. And after that happened, he was put in an insane asylum, and the town really has never recovered from that horrible tragedy. But it's been long enough now that the mayor of the community and everyone else in the community believes that they can have this party and everything will be back to normal. Well, of course, as per typical slasher, we're introduced to this giant group of younger people that live in the community. A lot of the men all work down in the mines, and then a lot of the women that live in the community that are all prepping for the dance. And of course, this masked killer dressed in a full miner's outfit starts going around killing the townspeople one by one. And the entirety of the movie is this group of young people trying to figure out who is this killer and why are they hunting them down. So, like I said, I thought this movie was incredibly entertaining. I definitely don't think it's perfect, but it is 100% worth the watch. For starters, it's really well shot. I thought the cinematography in this was really well executed. There's a lot of attention to detail in the framing. I really like the shadow work in certain scenes. There's really a lot of attention to detail in the reveal of the slasher before kills that just really make it an easy and immersive watch, which is exactly what I'm looking for when I watch a slasher movie. I really like films that have detailed cinematography, and this was no exception. It was really pretty to look at, which made the movie a heck of a lot of fun. The performances, typical slasher movie. There's some really campy characters that play into the absurdity of their role, which makes the movie very fun to watch. I loved the first like 10 minutes of this movie. It's just really goofy, like all these miners getting off their day to work, like they're all in the showers at the beginning, and just like the dialogue delivery and everything about it. It was sort of reminding me of what I love so much about Friday the 13th and just sort of the ridiculous absurdity of those films. And they play really heavily into it in the first like 10 or 15 minutes, which made it very easy for me to immediately be immersed into. It's not like anyone's giving an Oscar level performance, but they all fit the roles really well. And I think because the characters are interesting enough, sometimes towards the end, there were characters I got mixed up a little bit that I was kind of forgetting who was who. But I think at that point, it's just so irrelevant, it doesn't doesn't matter. I really love the attention to detail and the production design. Obviously, the place being called like Valentine Bluff or whatever, they really focus on the decoration of the town. And there's a lot of great attention to detail in the production. And I also love the look of the killer in this movie. I think with it being a coal mining town, having them wear the miner's mask and everything, there's something really interesting about it because in that community, you wouldn't really be completely taken aback by someone in that outfit because of the fact so many people in that community do that for a job, which makes it all the more sinister. And I appreciate that a lot. And as far as the kills go, there are a lot of off screen kills that will show like the aftermath and not necessarily the kill in person, which isn't always a big deter for me. But there were a couple of moments in this and some really cool ideas for kills that I think if they were shown in their complete totality on screen would have been really fun to witness. But instead, there's a lot of cutaways and like the police stumbling upon a dead body and things of that nature, which didn't bug me completely because I think that it works for the most part. But I do wish that it was a little bit more graphic, especially in the time period where this came out and some of the other slasher films being released in the same time period, and knowing what practical effects were capable of in this time period. I think that there could have been more, but regardless of that, I think for the most part, it's fun and entertaining. And the reveal in the third act, while not the most surprising, it works well for what the film is trying to go for. My biggest issue with this movie is that about the 30-minute mark, it starts to feel a little bit repetitive, and I found myself caring a little bit more about the runtime than I did early on. I was like, okay, can we just get to the point? And then when you get all of those like younger kid characters that are all at the dance, when you're just like, okay, they're going to kill these guys off one by one. They're not really built totally. There's like a love triangle that's going on that tries to play the main focus of the movie, and it works in some points, but like we're cutting away to random characters too frequently, and just some of the pacing is very, very slow. And I think for a slasher movie, the most important part is kind of just gunning to the finish line, like introduce these characters, put them in situations that are suspenseful, utilize the cinematography and the really incredible practical effects to keep people engaged through the whole runtime. And I think overall, it is that. I think that they do a really nice job for the most part. I just wanted a little bit more out of this movie, but I still think if you're into slasher movies and you like horror as a genre, you could do a heck of a lot worse than My Bloody Valentine. So have you seen My Bloody Valentine? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was incredibly entertaining. I had a ton of fun with it, and I think if you're a fan of slasher films, you should check it out. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.